Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I am doing a how to look elegant and sophisticated using some of my favorite luxury beauty products that I think are the most elegant and sophisticated in my collection. Thank you to the subscriber who recommended this video choice for me to do because I thought it was a fantastic idea and I had so much fun creating this look. So this is the Get Ready With Me portion. I decided to make this a little bit of a longer version where I am incorporating my favorite tips and tricks for a more elegant and sophisticated look. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let's just get straight into the look. So to start off with the eyes, I like to do my eyes first because I think with a sophisticated and elegant look especially, you want to ensure that there's no fallout whatsoever, and to get a really clean eye look and actually have a really clean face look as well, because again, we're going to make sure that there is no fallout on the skin. I think that it is best to start with eyes, so I'm going to start with the eyes. I've already primed my eyes. And the most sophisticated palette, well, I mentioned a few, but today I'm going to use the Clé de Peau. This is the Eye Color Quad, the refill, in the shade number 305. I believe the shade name is Satin Moon, and this is just a beautiful neutral palette. As you can see, we have some two warmer shades. They're not too warm. They don't lean orange or red or anything like that. They just lean slightly warm. And then we have these two shades on the end, which actually lean cooler tones. So I like that there's a mix of warmer and neutral tones. And when you actually apply these onto the lid, they just give the most sophisticated shimmer. They're pigmented, but not too pigmented. They're extremely easy to work with. They're buttery. They're very blendable. If you're a beginner, this is the palette for you. And it just gives the ultimate sophisticated shimmer because there's no chunkiness to these shades. It's absolutely gorgeous. I did mention the Tom Ford Tag Ride palette as well. So I'll kind of create a look with the Clé de Peau and then show you how to exchange the shades if you have this palette on hand and not the Clé de Peau. But I did have a request to use this palette. Someone messaged me on Instagram. So I thought this would be a great way to incorporate it because it is just so elegant and sophisticated and just gives such a classy look. So I'm going to start, like I said, with the eyes, and I'm going to take this deepest shade right here. It isn't quite a black. It's almost like this charcoal shade. I'm taking it on this small flat definer brush, so just any small brush, and I'm going to press that into the upper lash line, starting at the outer corner, blending inwards, and I'm basically just pressing this along the upper lash line. This is typically where you would apply a liner, so we're going to add some definition to the eyes by doing this, but it's going to be a lot softer and just more subtle, and I like that look for a more elegant look, because it is just more of a subtle look. It's very soft and delicate in person versus a harsh line that is created with pencil or a liquid liner. You just get a more blended look this way, but because this shade is deep, we're still getting that depth on the lash line. And I like doing this first because I just feel like this helps guide the makeup look a little bit, and I think it grounds the makeup look to start off with. And because I'm going to add shadows over top, the ended result with the liner applied first is going to be a lot softer. So even though this is still softer because I'm using a shadow liner versus a pencil, it's going to be even more soft when we apply additional shadows over top. And I am going to add almost like a little wedge shape just in the outer corner slightly because I'm making this slightly more dramatic. So I'm just kind of flicking this pencil brush outwards to create an almost wedge shape. Again, this will be blended out though. Next, I like to go in with a transition shade just to get the, I don't know, best result. I'm going to take this medium shade here. So it's this deeper warm tone. It's almost a coppery shade in this Clé de Peau palette. Now these shades, these eyeshadows are quite powdery. I just like to tap off the excess on the back of my hand as always. And I'm going to start in the outer corner, blending out that outer corner, kind of where I created that wedge shape because I want to soften that up. So just getting that depth in the outer corner. And then because where I apply this brush first, that's where most of the pigment is going to go. Now that I have less pigment on my brush because I blended that into the outer corner, now I'm going to work that shade into the crease. Now, because of my eye shape and I have small eyes, I'm not going to blend this shade all the way to the inner crease over here. I'm just going to take it about halfway across. And next, I'm going to take this lightest shade here that is that light gold shade, and I'm going to take it on a Sonia G. This is a Builder 2. This blending brush that I used was the Sonia G Blender Pro. I forget if I mentioned that. And I'm just going to take it on this flat brush and apply that shade all over the lid. Again, the pigment in this is really nice and it is subtle and soft. It is not too intense, so it's going to look really beautiful in person. It's not going to be an overwhelming shade. It's just such a classy eyeshadow, it really is. So since I am applying this over the lid, I'm almost going over where I applied that deeper shade in the outer corner. That's okay because it's just going to, I'm still going to get that little bit of depth in the outer corner from where I applied it. It's just softening it up a little bit by applying this lid shade over top. So again, I like that because I like more subtle makeup. And then I'm just going to run over the edges with just a clean brush just to make sure everything is still soft. I just cleaned up the under eyes a little bit and I'm going to dip back into that kind of mid-tone coppery shade. And I'm going to run that shade along the lower lash line, starting at the outer corner and working it inwards. Now, because this shade is a little bit deeper, I'm not going to bring it all the way to the inner corner. I'm going to bring it about 3/4 of the way across though. And to finalize the look, now you can just leave this here. This is what I would do on an everyday basis because again, it's very subtle and soft in person. It just looks really classy and sophisticated and elegant. But if I were to kind of finish this off with a one and done look, just to add a little bit more intensity, for the daytime, I would go in with the Chantecaille Mermaid eye color in the shade Copper, just to add a bit more of a sheen if I just wanted my eyes to maybe pop a little bit. But this is perfect for any occasion. This will look great for any event. And then if I were going out for dinner or something where I just wanted to elevate the look even more, I would go in with a shade that has a little bit more of that shimmer to it. So it has a little bit more reflection, but again, it's not a chunky glitter. It's a very sophisticated, elegant shimmer, but it does have, it's not as continuous of a sheen as the Peau shadow that I mentioned. But I would go in with the Bobbi Brown, Luxe eyeshadow Rich Metal in the shade Melting Point, or go in with one of the Chantecaille Luminescent eye shades. My favorite is the shade Lion, which is a golden copper. I feel like I haven't used the Chantecaille shade in a little bit, so I'm going to take that. And with these, I like to just use my finger. So I'm just going in with my fingertip, and I'm just going to apply that onto the lid. I like fingertips because I feel like you get that really melted in look. It just gives you kind of that glossy-eyed look. Sometimes when you apply it with a brush, you get more of that glitter reflection to your look. So I just like this. And I feel like this just finishes off the look really beautifully for an evening night out. Again, I would just leave the look as is if it were a daytime event. And then again, just running over the edges with that clean brush to make sure we get a really nice blended out look. And then from here, I'm going to clean up the under eyes. So I like to just kind of create a little bit of an angled look on the outer corner. So I clean up the look by just angling that eyeshadow up. If you can see, almost like you create a winged liner shape. But I don't want that line to be too harsh, so I always run my finger over the edge to keep that soft so it's not a harsh line. For the lashes, I went in with this Chanel, this is the La Base mascara. I changed it up from my Dior one because I got this for Christmas last year and I just ran out of my Dior. I think a lash primer is essential to creating a really beautiful look with mascara. Just because it primes your lashes, it just gives a good base for your mascara. It gives you length and volume and just allows your mascara to apply better. And then I went in with the Gucci L'Obscure mascara in the shade Black. And then I wanted to just go over, if I were to have used this Tom Ford palette, I would have just taken this shade on the lower lash line. I would have taken this shade right here in the outer corner and then this shade on the lid. So you can create the exact same look with another really sophisticated palette. It would just give you a little bit of a different look because the shades in this Tom Ford palette are even more subtle. The shimmers in here are even more refined. They're very smooth. They're more of a satin finish. And this palette leans just a little bit warmer as well. So you could create this look with this palette. It would just look a little bit different because, of course, the undertones are a little bit different and the finishes and the shimmer are a little bit different. And I'm going to move on to the skin. So the skin is very important for a really chic and sophisticated look. I feel like you want your skin to, you don't want to apply too much makeup, so you don't want to have too much foundation sitting on the skin, because again, you want your makeup to look really beautiful in person. You just want your skin to look enhanced like you, but better. So I think that prepping the skin is very important. I'm going to start out with the Paula's Choice. This is the Smoothing Primer Serum. It does have an SPF in it, so if you're taking photos, maybe you don't want to use this. I don't know. I don't take photos, so I'm not the person to ask if things photograph well. I just don't like photos, so I never take them. But I'm just applying this to the center of my skin where I want my pores to be extremely refined. So I like to apply it here. Then I'll take the excess just on the nose and the forehead and the middle of the chin. This is a superb primer for adding that really blurred out effect. It is a clear primer, so it's not going to add any sort of texture. It's not going to add any coverage or color to the skin. It is just going to blur texture and make everything look really smooth and refined on the skin. And I also want to prime and add a little bit of hydration to my skin where I require it. So I'm taking the Chantecaille Sheer Glow Rose Face Tint, which I absolutely adore. So I'm just going to take a little bit of this Chantecaille product, and I have cleaned and sanitized my hands. So you just require a little bit of this product, and I first like to apply it under the eyes. So this is going to help prep for the concealer and foundation that I apply over top. And what this is going to do is, because this primer has perfecting properties in it, it does add a little bit of a brightening effect. It adds a sheer tint of rose, but it doesn't look pink on your skin at all. It adds this blurring effect, this perfecting property, like I said, and because it has that blurred effect to it and that brightening effect, you won't require as much foundation over top. And then another area where I found it really helpful to apply is right in my laugh lines, because I am really dry here, and the last thing I want is for makeup to settle in this area here. And what it does is when makeup settles in that area is it makes your lines look worse. So I like to apply a little bit of moisture there. You can apply this all over your skin if you're someone that has dry skin all over. Again, because this has a blurred effect, it will look beautiful all over the skin. And for concealer, I decided it was tough to choose the most sophisticated concealer. That kind of seems like, I don't know, silly to classify a concealer as classy or sophisticated, but the one I went with is the Chanel. This is the Sublimage Le Corrector U. It's the Radiance Generating Concealing Eye Care. I have the shade 20. And then one of my subscribers advised that I get one of those airless pumps that you just pick up on Amazon, just because I find this packaging a little bit annoying because it's in a jar. So I picked one of these up. I just put a little bit of this concealer in this pump, and I can just use a bit of product from here now. And then I'm going to take this Clé de Peau concealer brush that I picked up. It is pretty flimsy, but it's a nice concealer brush, and it works really well on the under eye area. So I like to take a little bit of that product. I like to apply it to the palm of my hand because the back of your hand has pores and it will absorb that product. So just to get the most out of your product, I like to apply it there. And I'm just going to apply a little bit of concealer right where I am dark. I like to apply a little bit to the outer corner in this uplifted effect so that I get a more uplifted look. Everything just kind of looks better when it is blended upwards on your face. And then I'm just going to blend that in with a Beauty Blender sponge. So I like to initially apply the product to get more precision with a more precise brush like this, but then I will blend it in with a sponge, just because I like how product sinks into the skin better when I blend it in with a sponge. It's just a little bit more foolproof for me, where it doesn't blend in perfectly if I were just to use a brush like this, because I really want a product pressed into the skin. So again, it looks the most natural. I never want product to sit on top of the skin. And I just really like this concealer for a sophisticated look because it has really nice coverage to it, but it's not a makeup-y amount of coverage. Like, it doesn't add too much coverage where you need to be super careful with applying it, because if you go overboard, it's gonna look too heavy on the under eye area. It adds in really nice medium coverage, but you can build it up. It's a really nice concealer with coverage that doesn't look heavy on the under eyes, which is just important when you want to look sophisticated in person, because when you're talking to someone in person, face to face, you don't want them to be able to detect concealer on your under eye or it to look heavy there. And concealer on your under eye is definitely a place where it can be noticeable. if you don't apply it correctly or if you apply a concealer that's too drying. So I just think choosing a good quality concealer is really important. The foundation that I had to choose is the Chanel Sublimage L'Essence de Teint. This is just elegance in a foundation. It has just such a beautiful finish to it, and I think that's why I feel like it is the most sophisticated foundation. So I'm going to go ahead and give this a shade. And again, I like to apply it from the palm of my hand, and I'm just starting out with 1 pump of foundation. I like to start out with less, and then you can always build up to more, and just press this over the skin. And I think what impresses me the most about this foundation and why I reach for this when I want that really sophisticated and elegant look is because, like I said, the finish of it is so gorgeous. It has this really beautiful velvet-like finish, but it has a very soft glow to it. It almost reminds me of how your skin looks in the candlelight, like when it's dim lighting, and your skin just looks so beautiful and has this slight radiance to it, but it's nothing too glowy where it emphasizes texture and makes the texture on your skin look worse, like some glowy foundations can do. It is just beautiful, and the level of coverage on this is gorgeous as well because it has a really nice light to buildable to medium coverage, but your skin still shines through. Your skin still looks like skin. It has that skin quality to it. So if you are someone with a lot of pigmentation issues, you will require an additional concealer over top of that, but I'd rather go in with this type of beautiful foundation where your skin texture still shows through, and then cover up just any little areas that you need to with a pinpoint concealer. And it's a great long wearing foundation as well, so if you do have an event to go to, this is a fantastic choice because it's going to last for your full event, but it's also going to look very beautiful in person. It's going to look like your skin, but better, like I said. So you're not going to see makeup sitting on top of the skin, which I really enjoy for a sophisticated look, just because I think it looks really elegant and fresh and chic for you to see a little bit of skin texture through, because that's just skin. Skin is not perfect and absolutely flawless. You do still have a little bit of imperfection shining through, but I think that's a really beautiful look. Another thing I like to do for a really sophisticated finish is I like to take a clean brush. This is a Shiseido. It doesn't have the name on it, but I'll leave it down below. I prefer a beauty blender to actually apply my foundation, but if I really want to smooth over everything after I've applied foundation, this is the brush I use. I think it's a face polishing brush, and that's exactly what it does. So I like to run over everything that I've just applied, because when I go over top with this brush, it does really polish everything into the skin. It makes it look even more skin-like. It makes it look so seamless on the skin so that you really can't detect where you have applied foundation, because there are going to be no harsh lines or anything like that. So just run over everything really lightly, especially over the nose and the front of the face here, where I want everything to look really smooth. This will take away any excess product that you've applied, and it just gives you a very, very lovely finish. If you don't have that brush, I also really like to do it with the Chanel brush that came with the Chanel Sublimage L'Essence de Teint foundation. So you can interchange it with any sort of dense foundation brush that you have. It just needs to be a dense brush, and you just run over everything. It just allows everything to lay really flat and beautifully on the skin. Now, if I want that really elegant finish to my my concealer, I like to apply a little bit of powder just to set everything down, to ensure that everything looks really smooth and blurred and just a little bit more perfected, but I still don't want it to look powdery or heavy or makeup-y in person. So you need to go in with an extremely finely milled powder. This Givenchy one, this is the Prisme Libre. It's in the shade Voile Rosé, in the shade number 3. This is just limited edition packaging, but this powder is permanent. And what I like to do, you have to be very specific with how you apply this powder, is I take my damp beauty blender sponge and I apply this powder with the area on my sponge where I did not apply concealer. So I'll take a little bit of powder, just like this much. I flick away all that excess, so you can see powder flies up. But I want to ensure that there's no excess powder. I want that powder to be completely pressed into the sponge. And from there, I will press it just on the under eye area, just right there where I am really dark. So this powder will add a little bit of brightness and it will set that concealer down. But I don't want to bring it too far up to my lash line here, because there are a lot of fine lines there. And if you put too much powder there, it will just make the fine lines look worse, basically. So I want to avoid applying it there. So I like to just press that powder right where my under eye hollows are, just to set that concealer down to ensure it doesn't move. But again, we're going in with such a thin layer of powder that you're not going to be able to detect it when you see someone or when you're next to someone in person. The most sophisticated bronzer in my collection that's just so elegant and beautiful is the Sisley the Sun Glow Bronzing Gel Powder. This is just so gorgeous, and I'm going to apply it. I'm going to apply it with a big bronzing brush. This is the Rephr 22 brush. I like it, but it's just a little bit, Rephr's brushes are a little bit scratchy, so I'm going to pick up a Sonia G one, so maybe hold up on purchasing this brush, just because, again, it's a little bit scratchy on the skin, but I'm just going to apply a little bit of that bronzer. With everything, I like to tap the excess off on the back of my hand, and then I like to start on the forehead, and again, I'm kind of bouncing that bronzer into place. I don't like to buff bronzer like this because it will disrupt any makeup that you've applied, like any foundation or concealer. It'll kind of disrupt that. It can remove coverage from the skin when you buff your product into the skin, and it can actually just make texture look worse on the skin. So I like to just apply it like that. I'm being very light-handed by applying it on the skin. But the finish of this bronzer is so beautiful because there is a little bit of a sheen to it. And most of the time I don't like sheens in my complexion products because they tend to emphasize texture. But this doesn't. This really has that blurred, beautiful look on the skin. And the sheen is just so refined and elegant. It is just so complexion enhancing, and it looks gorgeous every time. This is a very buildable formula as well, so you can start off small and really build it up because it is that gel to powder texture. It's almost a cream to powder finish, so it looks really natural on the skin. I'm also going to take a little bit of that bronzer and I'm going to apply it underneath the lash line. Again, this will just add that really nice cohesion to the look, so everything just looks beautifully blended, and just that bronzer gets combined a little bit into the eye look. So I think it just looks really flattering and really rounds out the look really beautifully. I just realized I totally forgot to mention concealer. If you are someone that has discoloration or you have post-pigmentation from blemishes, the Peau, the concealer, is a concealer that I feel like you must have for a really sophisticated, chic concealer because it is a very skin-like concealer. It adds coverage and a very high level of coverage, but it still retains that skin-like quality, especially if you're just putting it in precise areas, like if you do have a blemish and you're just putting it in that one area, because it has a very nice skin finish. It's not too matte of a concealer where it looks drying and it dries out any spots, and it's not too dewy where it's going to move around your face. It has a great longevity to it, and it does have that kind of melting in capability where it just adheres to the skin and melts right in so that it almost becomes one. Now I have a little mark right here. Now I should have done this underneath the bronzer, so let's just pretend that I did that. I actually prefer a brush like this to apply that concealer because I feel like it just blends into the skin really nicely. It's like a mini buffing brush for the face. But this one is from Wayne Goss. I think Sonia G has one now. This one just is discontinued, so I can, again, link that below. This highlighter is still available, and my most sophisticated highlighter has to go to the Chantecaille Lotus Radiance Highlighter. Just because this is different from a typical highlighter, this does not give you that really dewy kind of wet sort of highlight look. What this does is this adds this really nice brightness to the skin, and it is quite a powdery highlight. But again, powdery doesn't necessarily mean bad or anything. It just adds this really nice brightness. It is such a subtle highlight that you can't detect it on the skin, but what you get is this really nice look that just amplifies your look. It just makes your complexion look even better. It just adds that really nice brightness, but it does not look like a highlighter sitting on top of your skin because it's just so subtle. It just adds that dimension back to your skin where we want a little bit of glow, but is not detectable highlighter. So I really enjoy that for something, again, really sophisticated, especially in person when you want your skin to look really elegant. We don't want to see highlighter sitting on top of the skin. We don't want to see those shimmer particles sitting on the skin. We just want that very beautiful, subtle glow that makes your complexion just look even better. And if you're looking for a highlighter that's permanent, that's very similar, I really like the Peau. This is the Luminizing Face Enhancer in the shade Shooting Star. This will just give you more of that bronzed highlighter. So this one actually blends really beautifully into the skin as well. Even though it looks like it would be too dark, it's actually not. It works really well for that subtle highlighter that just adds that dimension back to your skin where it doesn't look like detectable highlighter. So that's another great option that is permanent. And for blush, I had to give it to the Gucci, the Cheeks and Eyes powder. This is a luminous powder blush, a luminous matte, sorry, that is what they call it. This is in the shade Rosy Beige, and I just thought this would be the perfect elegant blush because as you can see, this is a very neutral tone. So it looks just like my cheeks are blushing, like it's very natural. It's just skin enhancing. It doesn't look like a too intense pop of color where it looks unnatural and it competes with the look. This is just such a delicate blush shade that it will just allow, again, your complexion to shine and just allow your natural beauty to shine because it's not too punchy of a color. And it's not going to look obnoxious or anything, and the formula is just gorgeous. So I'm taking this on a Ray Morris Deluxe Kabuki brush, and I like to, again, tap that excess off, and then I just pounce it into the skin. So as you can see, I'm kind of just pressing it into the cheeks, and I like to go, I don't like to start on the apples of the cheeks, I like to kind of start in the middle of the cheeks, and I'm bringing this, as you can see, in a more uplifted effect. So I'm not taking it too down low on the cheeks, because I want everything to look nice and lifted. And then I like to bring the excess product more to the center of the cheeks just to add a little bit of color there because I want this look to still be nice and youthful as well. So this shade is just like a My Cheeks But Better shade, which I just think is really, again, it's chic, it's elegant because it's not competing with anything. It's not competing with the eyes. It won't compete with any outfit or jewelry that you're wearing. It's just going to be very naturally enhancing. And as always, I love to finish the look with buffing at the end. So I'm taking the Chantecaille Lotus Perfect Blur Glow Powder, which is my new favorite finishing powder. I'm taking it on a Sonia G buffing brush. So I like to take that product, take a little bit of that excess off, and then just buff over the edges. I'm being very gentle with this application. This is the only brush that I ever buff onto the skin with. Other brushes would disturb product underneath, but this just finishes the makeup off beautifully, and this powder is just excellent. It adds that gorgeous finishing effect where everything looks perfectly buffed and blended into the skin. Again, you won't see makeup sitting on top of your skin. It blends everything in, so it all looks more natural because it's just blended into your skin versus sitting on top. You get no harsh lines because we are blending all the products into the skin, so that the end result is more natural. And this adds a very beautiful, perfected glow to the skin. So normally with glow powders, they do emphasize texture and make texture look more noticeable on the skin, but this has blurring capabilities in this powder. So you're getting that really gorgeous blurred out look, but with a very soft glow that looks very natural. And again, it doesn't emphasize texture. It does add that blurred effect, that soft focus effect at the end of the makeup application that we really want for an elegant look. So now that everything is blended into the skin, I still don't apply that powder right here to the center of my face just because it does have a little bit of glow to it. So I prefer to use a more mattifying powder just right in the center here. So I'm going to take the Chantecaille. This is the Perfect Blur Finishing Powder, which I just think is such a sophisticated powder. You can see I'm literally almost done this. I'm almost ready to start my next compact, but I'm not quite done with this powder yet. Taking this on a Sonia G Master Face, and then just pressing right where my pores are, just right in the center of the face here. And that is it. I'm not going to apply powder anywhere else. This is just the area where I want to be completely blurred and flawless. And I feel like there's actually a lot of sophisticated lip products out there, but when I want my go-to nude lip combination that just looks really beautiful, so it's a kind of a Your Lips But Better nude shade that's not too nude. It's not going to give you concealer lips or anything like that. It's going to add a nice bit of dimension, but it's not going to look like a really intense lip look. I just like that more lived-in lip look. I think that looks really sophisticated and elegant, where it's not just a intense, bold lip. That's just my personal preference. Taking the Charlotte Tilbury Pillow Talk Lip Cheat. And I forgot to note that I did tightline, and I think tightline is really important for, again, that sophisticated look because we're completing the eye look by adding a little bit of eyeliner on the top waterline. It just creates that cohesion, again, between the lash line and your waterline. Sometimes it just looks like an awkward gap if you don't fill in that line. I just think that it completes the look really beautifully. And for lipstick, I had to give it to the this is the Chanel Rouge Cocoa Flash in the shade Boy. There's just something so sophisticated about this formula and the finish of this. I literally have like the tiniest bit of this lipstick left. I need a backup. But it just applies with ease. It is just so comfortable on the lips. It adds a beautiful sheen that almost hides imperfections. It adds this almost blurred finish to the lips, which I adore. It's so comfortable. It's not gloopy or anything. It doesn't smear outside your lip lines. It's just so sophisticated, and I love that I can touch up so easily without being too precise. Like, it's not a lipstick you require a lot of precision with. And I like to add that lip liner again because I do think having a little bit of definition on the lips is important, especially if I want to look more elegant. I just like to have that definition on my lip line just because I like a little bit of definition on the lips. I think it just looks a little bit more complete. And then my most sophisticated, elegant lip gloss is definitely the Tom Ford Brilliant. This is the Brilliant Gloss Luxe in the shade 21 in the Buff. It is basically just a pinky beige lip gloss with a little bit of shimmer. But the shimmer, you can't feel it on the lips. Like, you can't feel that grittiness that some shimmery lip glosses have. But the formula of this, it is so lovely, and it is so luxe when you apply it. It just feels like the most luxurious, special thing. And even the packaging is luxurious and elegant and just special. But the formula is truly superb. It just feels so lovely. This is always the lip gloss I reach for on special occasions when I just want to elevate my look, because there's something special with the shimmer in this formula. It just adds this really subtle plumping effect, but it doesn't feel plumping. It doesn't give you tingly lips or anything. It's just the most beautiful lip gloss ever. I do always like to dab everything in at the end because, again, I like that more lived-in lip look. I don't like lip product to sit on top of the lips, so I do like to just blend everything in as a final touch, just to get a little bit more of that lived-in lip look. But that is it for the final makeup look. I really hope you guys enjoyed that I incorporated some tips and tricks to really make your makeup look really sophisticated in person as well. Sometimes with my Get Ready With Me videos, I kind of rush through the products quickly just to show you them. But I think I want to be more thoughtful about incorporating more tips and tricks in my videos because I know a lot of people like that these days, and videos are just so fast-paced nowadays that I feel like you don't get that a lot of the time. But let me know your thoughts. Let me know what your most sophisticated and elegant products are in your collection. I would love to hear from you. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Like this video if you like it, and I'll see you in my next video.